Hello, welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at how to add a custom state well, it's not really that custom because there's already sleep states in the game, but we're going to learn how to add it to an existing mob that does not have the sleep state on it already. Like this is a copy of the mouse, and the mouse does not have a sleep state in it by default. So we're going to add that to Niblet. Hop into the code. Okay, so the first thing you want to look at is how to understand this file. This file right under here, under roles. So first things first, we're gonna change this to be our own. So let me try to explain this really quick. This reference, if we hit shift twice, we can search for this file and hit include non-project items. We can open this JSON file up, and then we can hit this select open file, and it's going to jump directly down to where this file is. We're going to copy this completely, and we're going to modify it for our own reasons for our Niblet creature, because we don't want to use their template because we can't modify it. So I'm going to create the same structure. They have roles, core, templates. So we're going to do the same structure here. So we're going to do NPC roles, core, and we're going to create a new JSON file, and we're going to call it template template niblet.json. I'm going to paste everything in here from the other file. And then we're going to open up Niblet and refer to that file by doing this. So now if we edit this file, it will show up for our Niblet creature. Let me try to explain this file really quick. So first off, let's compact everything. To do that, select everything and hold down Control Command or Alt Control and then hit -sign a couple times, and it should compact everything down. Now we're going to open it up one by one and explain each part. First part is parameters and start state. We'll get into start state. Actually, start state is pretty simple. It is the state that, well, we'd have to get into states for that. Let me just start with parameters. Parameters are something that you can pass in from this file. So if you want to modify something that's in the template, because this is a template, say you have multiple creatures, you have a Niblet and you have a Nublet. You can use the same template and call it template mushroom character or something, and then you can have parameters to modify what's inside of the template by using this parameters section. So for example, we are saying in the template that our appearance is going to be a mouse, but we don't want it to be a mouse, we want it to be a Niblet, so we're going to override or modify the appearance parameter to Niblet. So that's how you get a parameter into there. So that's going to go into the template. It's going to say, okay, we're going to modify the parameters appearance, and we're going to say it's going to be a Niblet. The same thing you can do for all of these parameters: view range, view sector, hearing range, but they all have default values. So this one has 15, 180. If I wanted to modify view range, I could just go into here, copy that, hit modify, add a new line, and say view range, and we could say 10. And that would modify the view range to be 10, not 15. We're going to leave everything as default for now, just to keep it simple, but that is how parameters work. Okay, next up is, so I'm gonna compact parameters because we're done with that. Next up is how do we use these parameters inside of this file? Say we want to refer to our appearance later on in the file. Well, to do that, you would, like for example here, it has the appearance keyword. You would do open bracket compute appearance. This appearance right here is referring to the one in parameters right here. So that's how you refer to your parameters in your template. Use the compute keyword. Okay, next up is our instructions. This is the big part. We're going to open this up a couple times, and then we're going to see that there's, if you hover over each one of these, it's a different state. See how it says state plea, state panic, state curious, alerted, idle. We're going to open up the bottom one, and we're going to take a look at the panic state. So the way this works is there's two sections. There's the sensor, and then there's the instructions. The sensor is going to say this is basically, this type of sensor is a state sensor, and we're looking for whenever it's in the state panic, then you'll run these instructions. And for the panic instructions, it's actually stored in this component file. So if we, again, double click shift and open up include non-project files, you can actually open this up and view the instructions here. But what if we wanted to modify this file inside of our template niblet? Well, we could use the keyword modify, but then that would only work for the parameters that are here. So the alerted range and our imported states. They already have it on here, but what if we wanted it to be even more customized? Well, then you can actually just copy the instructions over into your template. So everything that's here, you can delete. And everything that's in here, you can copy. And you can paste in here. Make sure that you get the all the brackets that you need. It will tell you with like a little red squiggly mark if you're missing something. Like for example, see that little red squiggly mark? It says expected something. It means you missed a bracket. So this is useful because this makes it to where our template is customizable and not having everything in different files and making it confusing to work with. But yeah, so that's the sensor and instructions pair. Now let's look at actions and, well, let's look at some of the other examples really quick first. So again, sensor instructions, sensor for state alerted is going to compute, also has instructions for that. We're going to copy that over and paste it in here again. Well, actually, I'm just going to leave it because I don't want to make it too complicated. And I'm actually going to undo this state panic stuff because we're not going to work with this for a minute. So for now, we're just going to leave it as the instructions. But if you wanted to change it, that's how you would do it. And you can also make your own instructions file and store it in a separate file to keep everything small so you don't have like 1,000-page template or 1,000-line template. But I like to have it all in one file just because it's easier to read, in my opinion. Okay. So, trying to find a good example of Here we go. Okay, so what if you want to have multiple instructions? In our panic state, all we have is one set of instructions, and that's just saying, well, I'm actually gonna bring that back. That's just saying, well, let's deep dive into this really quick. The instructions are saying, well, is this going to block instructions, other actions? Yes, it will block other actions. So that means that it's not going to let a just another action basically be triggered while this is going on. Basically, letting this series of actions here play out before it's being like canceled by a different action. Because some actions are able to be canceled by other actions. So what this is going to do is, all it's going to do is wait for 5 to 8 seconds. It's a type of timeout. So this is inside of instructions. So it goes sensor, state panic. We're going to run these instructions, and here's one of the actions. This is the list of actions that it's going to take. What it's going to do is going to stay in the panic state for 5 to 8 seconds, and then it's going to go to the idle state. And the motion that it's going to do while it's in this state is going to wander in circles. Okay, so let's look at something more complicated but more important. The idle state. The idle state is the state that everything kind of goes back to. The idle state is basically the base state. And it's going to have a subset of instructions. This is important. Most states, all the other states, like the alerted state, are just going to have like usually one or two instructions. This one's going to have a lot. This one's going to check, first it's going to clear all statuses, all animations. It's going to check to see if it's being damaged. If it is damaged, then it's going to either flee or panic. And we can actually look at what this is doing here. So these import states, chase and search, are what's being replaced by flee and panic. So if we look at what chase is, when chase is going to be run, it's going to be run whenever it's going to be run here, and then panic or search is going to be replaced by panic. So search is going to be replaced by panic, flee and chase is going to be replaced by flee, because these are the exported states and these are the imported states. So that's how states work. And that's how they like get the state that you want in, by the way. It's not the same as like the alerted range parameter. Okay, so for the idle state, there is quite a lot going on here. I'm going to just open up all of it, and then I'll try to explain it as best as I can. Okay, so one thing to mention while you're working with this is if you click on one of these brackets, it will tell you where the end bracket is by following this line, so you can tell where things begin and where things stop. It's pretty important because these files can get pretty long. Okay, so for state idle, first it's going to clear the status, and then it's going to check and see if it's damaged, and it's going to use the alerted range from these parameter that we defined up here for alerted range, which has a default value of 30. We can override that in the creature here if we wanted to by just doing alerted range. We could override that by doing that. I'm not going to do that though. We could also change it here if we wanted to. And that would change it for everything that's using the template. So it's going to check to see if it's being damaged, if the creature is being damaged. And then this is where it gets a little complicated. This sensor is of type OR. So it's going to do this, or it's going to check all three of these. So it's going to check for the sensor of type player. So it's going to see if the player is in line of sight or if there is a hostile creature nearby, or if there is any sound from a hostile creature nearby. And if any of those things, this or, so this, or this, or this, if any of those are true, or if any of those sensors are being activated, then it's going to run these actions. And the action it's going to take is going to switch to the alerted state. And then that's going to take us down to this right here, state alerted. And it's going to then run these instructions. And just to make it easier to read this, I'm going to go to these instructions and copy them in. So for the alerted state, it will play the animation alerted. Then it will check to see if it's damaged. And then it will try to use the chase or search state, but we don't want to do that. We want it to actually, like, if it's damaged, then flee. We don't want it to do chase or search. So we're going to change those to flee and flee. Yeah, be careful whenever you're copying those in because, for example, we may not have the state that was in there by default. And this would have to be changed from parent state to state, by the way. Parent state to state. Parent state to state, and change this to flee. Because we want them to go from alerted to fleeing. Alright, so with those changes, I think we should run it and see if it's working, and if it's not, I can show you what the errors look like for whenever you're changing your instructions and how to like debug that. Because most likely I messed up something. And you can see that here. Unable to find symbol wait time. So we could just change this, but let's try to understand what happened. So we copied in the component instructions generic alerted. And then in here, there is a wait time that's being passed in from here, which is a value of 2 and 3. So let's paste that into our code. Delayed before moving to the next state. So here we're just going to paste in that value. We could parameterize it, but I think just leaving it as 2 or 3 is fine. And we'll rerun it. Notice that these are actually logs that are showing up not at the bottom, but in like the middle of this run server. You have to click on here because now it's going to throw this error that says Niblet does not exist as a role. You have to click back up here. And then you can find it here. No, this is the spawn configuration. That's fine. Everything looks like it's okay. Here's the test though. If Niblet is in the world and you can spawn him, then your config for your states and instructions is valid. If it's not there, then he's probably been despawned because the game said it was invalid and just despawned him. So let's just test this. Where did he go? Yeah, looks like he's running the same as he was, which he should. We didn't really change anything yet. We kind of just copied in files from references. So let's add a state. Let's add a sleep state.